Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Canon. So there was an incredibly important article that was recently printed. It was a question and answer with Jeremy Crawford, specifically about Canon. So what we're going to talk about today is what is Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Canon, and the official answer from Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition design team being carried by Jeremy Crawford, right? So first of all, Jeremy Crawford is on the Dungeons & Dragons design team. He's an official member. He can speak with authority, right? Now, he's not the top dude, right? He's not the top person. That's Mike Merles, but he has absolutely been authorized to answer questions like this, and his answers stand as a hard, fast, true answer. That's a big deal, right? What is canon in Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition is a very big deal. All right, so this is one of those situations where Jeremy Crawford gave an answer. I hate the value of his answer, but I loved that there is an answer, right? So, like, if I ask, so let's say that Wizards of the Coast is asked the question, what is 2 plus 2, right? And the answer back that we want is 4, right? But they say, oh, the answer is 3, right? I don't like that answer. I really, really, really dislike, dislike the answer that they're giving. But at the same time, I love that they are giving an answer. Okay, and you're like, well, what's it matter that they give an answer? It matters a lot. They're increasingly, companies are 100% incented to not answer questions. They have huge incentives and huge benefits to not answering questions. And the reason why is Twitter, mostly, and the rest of the internet will absolutely punish you for every wrong word. We're seeing this on He-Man Masters. I think the brand new Netflix He-Man Masters of the Universe show, I think it's called Revelation. Basically, there were questions that were asked to Kevin Smith, and he said value 3, right? He gave an answer to the question, and literally dozens, if not hundreds, of sites are saying you lied, and like about really big things that matter to a lot of communities, right? And people are going back and they're collecting the receipts, and they are just like putting him like through, really dragging him behind the carriage, right? Like he's been strung up and is being dragged behind the carriage, saying, we asked a question, you gave an answer, the answer was one variation off, it's wrong, it's a lie, we will punish you, right? So the fact that, Jeremy Crawford is coming out and saying, hey, we realize there's a lot of questions about what is canon in Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, here's the real answer. Here's the official answer from an official D&D 5e. So I really applaud that they answered this question, because you cannot take answers for granted anymore, right? And I have incredible sympathy for and look at just Wizards of the Coast, right? They can't release a book. They haven't released a book in like 6 months. They can't announce a book. They can't announce a book. They haven't announced a book in like a year, right? Like Twitter announces their books, right? And Amazon Slips announce their book. Like, they don't do any announcing of their own content. And that's incredibly painful for them as a company, right? They literally don't have any ability to announce their own material. Like, it's just like squawked out by some weird, person on Twitter, or a mistake happens on Amazon, and then everybody's like, here's the new book announcement. You're like, is this literally how books are announced now? And the answer is yes, this is like how it's announced. All right, so what did Jeremy Crawford say about canon? It's fascinating. So one, he said something really interesting. He said, listen, when it comes to Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, there's 2 books you need to worry about, right? When it comes to canon, there is hardcover adventure and hardcover sourcebook, okay? So so hardcover adventure, I'll give you a good example of that. Storm King's Thunder, that's a hardcover adventure. It's an official adventure. It has official content for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and it's the classic, traditional, hardcover shape and size, which has been honored in every single edition of Dungeons & Dragons and has never changed, right? Hardcover, 120 to 250 pages long. Maybe it goes a little shorter, maybe it goes a little longer, but that's generally it. Nowadays, it's 250. You know the shape, you know the size. It's pretty much the same size as a standard white piece of 8.5 by 11 paper, maybe a little bigger, but it is what it is, right? So that is and he's saying, hey, if it's in a D&D 5e hardcover book, it's canon, okay? If it's in a hardcover adventure, if it's in a hardcover source book, right? So adventures, I just gave you an example of. The source books get weird, right? Those are setting books. Those are all three, the PHP, the DMG, and the MM, right? And then they also are like just totally weird nonsense, like Acquisition Incorporated. Like, what the heck is that book? Like, who is it for? What does it do? It seems like a vestigial nub tail on an animal. Like, it's just completely useless, right? So I don't think that it's a whole nother video. I don't think that thing should have been printed. All right, so basically, the biggest issue is it displaced something, right? All these books displace something. That's the issue, right? But that's huge. Jeremy Crawford is saying this is canon. Now, what does that leave out? That leaves the magic. Arguably, his answer was a hard answer, right? That leaves out every novel. That leaves out every video game. That leaves out every single Magic the Gathering card. All of it, right? That means that official Dungeons & Dragons 5e product, right? That leaves out the Young Adventurers guides, like all these products, right? The Nerds candy, none of it is canon, right? And you're like, hey, what's happening? Like, why is this stuff getting taken away, right? And why is it being squelched? And like said, this doesn't, this product you purchased doesn't matter, right? That's a hard reality for Dungeons & Dragons purchasers, right? What about collectors, right? And like all the, so basically that's a hard line. And they're saying for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, if it ain't in a hardcover source book, if it ain't in a hardcover adventure, it is not canon, right? They just announced new middle school books for young adults, right? So, those books come out and they have this super fun little book. It uses the classes, it uses the races. But why? Why did it bother using the real classes and the real races, right? Why can't you just, make up whatever you want? Because those books aren't canon. They don't matter, right? And I'll tell you right now, I love that they gave this answer. I'm very thankful that they gave the answer for this, because a lot of companies are learning you don't answer any questions and you just keep, and you can be benefited as a company if you keep the hoi polloi, the bog standard purchasers of your product. You can keep them in the dark, right? You can mushroom them, right? And you can benefit from that. And I know there's a lot of people out there, well, that's not good business, and people won't buy. And you're like, hey, you're talking about a global IP with 50 years of history. Yeah, people will buy, right? You can absolutely keep the D&D just Muggle class in, just the bog standard purchasers of the product. You can keep them in the dark, and you can treat them terribly, right? And they're still gonna buy, right? I'm part of that. I have to say, like, the Feywild book, right? There's big problems with the Feywild book. My list of what I object to in the Feywild book is a long list. I'm still gonna be buying that book, right? And this is the part that I think also is a new understanding. Everybody's just like, you could skip the book. No, you cannot skip books, right? If you're a serious dungeon master, they are now putting races in almost every book, right? The moment there's a race or something key, your players are going to expect you to have it at the table. And I think that's a completely legitimate expectation, right? And you're like, oh, Scott, it's not an expectation. Well, see, here's the other thing is you're playing Dungeons & Dragons. If they want whatever nonsense you want to put on the story on the board, why don't they just go over and run some kind of nonsense indie game, right, where nobody cares what the value is, and where it doesn't have 5 decades of history, and it doesn't matter, right? But if you're saying this is a D&D 5e game, I'm playing the number one tabletop in the world, and I'm making canon what is canon, right? This is a hard answer, right? And it's really a tough answer. So I really hate the answer they gave, but I love that they gave an answer. And I also, I rolled hard against Wizards of the Coast a lot of time, but I want to make it crystal clear. I just need to remind people again, I'm so thrilled with Wizards of the Coast right now. I cannot wait for the Strixhaven book. I'm excited for all 3 books coming in the fall. Like, we've already had 2 cool books this year, and we got 3 books on the way. I could not be more happy. I hate the answer they gave. I think those other pieces of material, they should do the work and make them canon, but they don't have the courage, right? They don't have the stones for it, and that is frustrating to me. That is frustrating to me. But I love the fact that they at least had the courage to answer the question. So a little bit of love-hate here on on their current action. All that's my opinion. What do you think? What do you think of their decisions on what's canon in D&D 5e and what's not? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.